And I began to understand that structure doesn't limit you. It actually frees you in a lot of ways, because once you understand what the components of strong storytelling are, then you can kind of make things do whatever you want. And it doesn't hold you back. It doesn't mean that you're, hemmed in as far as your plot and where things can go. It's not that at all. It's just you understand better, what elements need to be there for a strong story. And you just need to make sure you're building those in.
Welcome to the Author Like a Boss podcast, the podcast for indie authors who want to improve their writing, up-level their marketing, make money with their books, and have fun doing it. Now, on to the show with your host, Ella Barnard.
Hey boss, if you are starting on your author journey but are nervous about marketing, then I've got something special for you. I've just released a book called Start Marketing Your Book. In it, I share fundamental marketing principles and simple, actionable steps that you can take right now. For less than a cup of coffee, you could actually have everything you need to start selling more books. To buy the book, go to authorlikeaboss.com/start marketing. Hello, bosses! Ella here with Author Like a Boss, and we are here today with the amazing Angela Ackerman. Angela is a writing coach, international speaker, and co-author of the best-selling book, The Emotion Thesaurus, A Writer's Guide to Character Expression, as well as 5 other amazing books. Her books are available in 6 languages, are sourced by U.S. universities. I bet that's really cool. Okay, and are used by novelists, screenwriters, editors, and psychologists around the world. Angela is also the co-founder of the popular site Writers Helping Writers, as well as One Stop for Writers, an innovative, creative library packed with tools and resources to help writers write stronger fiction faster. Oh my gosh. I am really excited to have you here, Angela. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. That's like such a mouthful to say all of that. So thank you. Thank you.
No, I'm like, blah, 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 and I know I didn't say innovative correctly, but that's okay because it was towards the end and I got emotion thesaurus correctly. So.
I know, thesaurus.
Wow. I'm really excited to jump into some of these things. But let's just start the way I always do with your author journey and we will go from there.
Sure thing. Thank you very much for having me on here. I'm always really happy to talk about writing because I'm a super geek. So that's all good. As far as my journey, I think it probably mimics most people's journey in that, I started writing and I thought my writing was really awesome. And I thought that maybe I just need to fix a couple things and then I'd totally be able to publish my books and stuff. And I joined a critique group and very quickly learned that I had a lot to learn. But it turned out to be one of the best things I ever did. So I'm very happy that I kind of reached out of my little, keyboard space and, found other people online, joined a critique group. That's where I met Becca, my co-author now. And I write children's fiction when I'm writing fiction. So children and young adult fiction. And I went the traditional industry as much as I could. I was able to get an agent and then that agent didn't work out and I got another agent and, I submitted manuscripts. Some of them went to acquisitions. I had an editor she moved to a different publishing house and she tried to acquire the same manuscript twice and just unfortunately was not able to. So, that stuff kind of happens. It's kind of that, close but didn't quite make it. And while I was doing all of that, Becca and I we really see the value in learning good writing craft. And so we're always pushing ourselves to learn more. And we were kind of talking about the things that we struggled with. And from that struggle, one of the biggest things that drove us nuts was emotion, trying to show emotion in a way that wasn't cliche. And it wasn't like our characters were always rolling their eyes and shrugging and putting their hands in their pocket and doing these same things over and over and over. And together we started building these lists that looked at the body language and the mental processes and the visceral sensations that a character might experience when they're feeling a certain type of emotion. And that eventually went on to become our first writing guide called The Emotion Thesaurus. And in the case of that book, we actually self-published it just because there was we didn't have a lot of the things that you kind of need to get the attention of a publisher especially when you're writing a writing guide. We weren't best-selling authors, we weren't agents, we didn't have editing degrees or anything like that. And while we had a lot of our work on our blog, people were starting to pirate it. And when that's happened, we realized, we really need to do something with this. We need to turn it into a book. And so we just decided to self-publish it. And then since then, people love that book so much, we just kept going. We published 6 writing guides now that are all thesauruses, looking at different aspects of description that's just really important for us to master to create compelling fiction. And what else? Becca and I also decided to start One Stop for Writers with Lee Powell, who is the creator of Scrivener for Windows. And that kind of came from a real desire to help people in a new way, to help people beyond our books, because our books are really, unique tools, because they're lists that are kind of a really helpful brainstorming aid for when you're really stuck on what you want to write. But with books, you're kind of, you're hampered by word count and things like that. And we knew that we had all these ideas for different tools that we could build that could help writers in new ways. And Lee Powell, he's the creator of Scrivener for Windows. So he's just a very talented developer. And the 3 of us just decided, let's put all of our thesaurus content together. Let's start building some really neat tools. And that's what we're doing at One Stop for Writers. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. So I love that you were like, we're doing this for ourselves, but let's just put it on a blog or whatever. So other people, so we have a place where we recorded it, and it's like, and now it's turned into, I wanted to ask you, so you started with writing children's books and, young adult. Are you still writing that?
Because I still want to get back to that. Right now, I'm not writing fiction and Becca's not writing fiction. It's still our intent to absolutely go that route. But just because our writing guides have taken off the way they have, and we have One Stop for Writers, which is, just a ton of work, creating these different tools and then managing this whole site and the marketing part of it and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like several full-time jobs squished together. So we've decided, for now, we're just going to set the fiction writing aside and really kind of pursue strong writing craft and learn as much as we can and learn, how can we, convert this into tools and things like that can help other people. And, we teach, we speak, do run workshops, things like that as well. And it's really fulfilling. Like, it's super fulfilling to be able to help other writers reach their dream, because this is all of our dream. We all have the same dream. And I have no regrets at all setting fiction aside, because like I said, I know I will come back to it. And in the meantime, I get to help other people. So that's a big part of who I am. So it feels really, really fulfilling to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Because that's like, I have a whole shelf full of all my writing books. But when I'm like, because I've always I haven't always, but it's been like maybe I could someday write a fiction book. But actually, I get very, very, very fulfilled by helping other people write books. Mm-hmm. Like, and put them out there in such a way, like, it's very fulfilling, especially right now when it's so possible to put your book out there. Like, it's so possible. And just so you guys know, like, when we're talking, like, she's put her books for the side, you only published the emotion thesaurus in 2012. So it's not like it's been like decades ago I decided to put away my writing for this other writing. You've still got plenty of time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you doing at One Stop for Writers? What is it that you're helping people with there?
Well, the thing about Becca and Lee and myself is that all 3 of us, we're all writers. We're all kind of we geek out over writing tools and writing resources. So we're all very aware of what exists out there.
Mm-hmm.
And as writers, we know what we wish existed. We know which tools where it's just like, oh man, I wish somebody would make something like this so that we could like really help us. And so what we're doing at One Stop for Writers is we're taking the things that we really wish existed and we're building them. And so it's very exciting for us. So some of the tools that we have there is like story structure used to really baffle me. And when I started writing, I would classify myself as a pantser. But as I kind of evolved as a writer, one thing that I found for myself was that I gained a better appreciation for structure. And I began to understand that structure doesn't limit you. It actually frees you in a lot of ways, because once you understand what the components of strong storytelling are, then you can kind of make things do whatever you want. And it doesn't hold you back. It doesn't mean that you're, hemmed in as far as your plot and where things can go. It's not that at all. It's just you understand better, what elements need to be there for a strong story. And you just need to make sure you're building those in. And so as I started learning more about structure, I got frustrated because there's just so many different kinds of structure models out there. And everybody calls things, it's the inciting incident and the catalyst and the dark night of the soul and all these different terminologies. It's the midpoint, or is it this? And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so confusing for me. And I came across Michael Hauge's 6-stage plot structure. And I absolutely love it because it looks at not only the outer journey of a character and the external goal, but the inner character arc. And for me, that method really resonated with me. So we built a tool called the story map. And it basically leads you through all the different pieces of a strong story. It breaks it down and it tells you, in this section, this is kind of the stuff that you want to be thinking about should be happening. And so it leads writers through different parts of the story if they need that help. If they don't need that help, they can just use the story as they want. And, it's going to help them plan a really tight novel. But if they do need a little bit of support like I did, it provides that for you. So that's just one tool that we have. And it creates like this beautiful map that you can then, you can print it out, you can put it on your wall, you can take it and export it. If you like using Scrivener, you can export it to Scrivener and use it in Scrivener to write with, whatever you want to do. So we have tools like that. We've got a timeline tool that I absolutely love because you can drag around. It's like little tiles where you can, think about whatever it is that you need to create a timeline for. Mm-hmm. So if you have a character's journey and, he's got to go to 5 cities and look for 5 different jewels or something like that, because I don't know, they all fit into a specific crown or whatever that plot looks mm-hmm. like. You can plot that out using these tiles and then move them around and decide what order you want them to go into. And you can track his journey, which city does he go in first and what does he find in that city? What's the next one? If you were writing a mystery, you could use it to track the clues that you have in a crime scene. So, okay, in the first crime scene, this is what happens, and this is going to be the clue. And then the second now I can't say the word. The second crime scene, this is going to be the clue that's left behind. So it's such a great way to sort of track these important details that we cannot lose focus of, but then also play with the story. If you want a storyboard and you've got like a bunch of ideas of scenes that you think should happen in a novel, but you don't know what order they're going to go in, and you want to play with that, you can kind of drag them around and see, how it all looks once you lay it all out. So it's just a lot of fun and very practical too.
I love that. Okay, so you've got some really cool tools at One Stop for Writers, you guys.
Yes.
But I really, really like what you were talking about structure, because the way I think of it is before I started writing, I took a quilting class. Mm-hmm. And so the way I imagine it is like pantsing versus plotting is like in quilting, you have all these different pieces of really beautiful fabrics that you get to put together. And you're like, oh, awesome. And so the way I see it is the structure is putting them together in such a way that you have a completed quilt at the end.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Versus
Absolutely.
Versus when you're pantsing, you're you're like, oh, I like this piece with this piece, this piece with this piece. And you can keep going for a very long time and not end up at the end with a completed quilt.
Yeah.
Because and the completed quilt is the satisfying story, because you could still have like something, but the analogy is that it's the satisfying story for your readers. Like they're like, I had all the things I needed in that. And you still have all the creativity. You just have to put them together in such a way. You still get to choose the fabrics, and you still get to choose what kind of quilt you're going to do, like all the things.
Yeah, exactly. All the, the filling, you get to choose what that's going to be, the backing, everything for your quilt. You just buy the things that you need, and then you decide how you're going to put it together.
Yeah.
And, that's understanding the really important components of a quilt to make a good quilt that's going to keep you warm, and, or whatever the purpose is that you're making, that's important. You need to know those things.
Yeah.
You need to buy thread. You need to, you got to have a sewing machine, or, there's things that you need. These are all good things, and you're going to end up with a good product at the end.
Yep.
But if you don't have any of those things, and you just kind of like, throw a bunch of stuff together and have no idea what to do with it, then yeah, you will end up with something. It's just going to be maybe not what you had hoped it would be.
Yes.
So, no, absolutely. So yeah, our tools, they help writers in practical ways like that. And I think the other big thing that people really love about One Stop for Writers is we have all of our thesauruses there. So I know it's your favorite word.
You guys, I grew up with a lisp, and even just saying, like, why is the word lisp so ridiculous to say? Go ahead. Okay. But yes. So go ahead.
But anyway, so and it's not just you, by the way, like everybody gets messed up with the word thesaurus, because then they're like, is the plural thesauruses, or is it thesauri? And
is it actually a dinosaur? Some kind of
exactly,
dinosaur?
Right? It is a mystery. So you're not alone in that one. But people who like our books and understand what we're doing on our books, they would probably really like One Stop for Writers, because we've written 6 books, but Becca and I have been doing this now for a long, long time. And we actually have 15 different thesauruses on different topics. And 14 of them are at One Stop for Writers. The 15th is being written right now, and then it'll be uploaded. But it's just a massive, massive database of really awesome description on anything you can imagine. So all the elements of storytelling, your characters' emotions and their wounds and their character motivation, their physical features, all of that kind of stuff is all at One Stop for Writers. So it makes it really easy. Whenever you need inspiration, it's always there. So that's probably one of the other big reasons that people really like that site.
Yeah, I'm really excited, because before I connected with you, somebody in my Author Boss Academy was like, hey, have you guys seen this book? It's The Emotion Thesaurus. And everybody in the Academy went and bought it, because they were like, this is amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I'm like, this is great. And I bought it too. And then a couple months later, we set this up, and I was like, oh,
well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's quite a compliment.
Yeah. Super fun. So you guys, I do recommend, because when you give the example of the eye rolling, and I know in romance recently, like in the last few years, there's been a lot of biting of the lip.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, there's a couple that you're just like, oh man, isn't there any other, like, it feels like just 2 pages ago, I read this.
Yeah. Well, and the other big thing with expression is, in real life, when we're talking to people, we're watching their face, right? So as we're writing, we're thinking, okay, well, how can I describe this emotion? And immediately we're like, oh, well, she smiled, or, her eyebrows raised up, or whatever. We're thinking about the face, because that's what we do in real life, right? That's where our focus is. But in writing, I mean, the face is kind of small. There's not a lot going on there. There's not a lot of variety. Mm-hmm. And yet so much of what we're feeling, we're actually expressing through our body, and we just don't really realize it. So there's just, if we just challenge ourselves a little bit to think past the face, past those very obvious things that we tend to do over and over and over too much, then we can come up with some really great visuals for readers so that they're really pulled in, and not just the body language, but also the different things that happen inside the body. Like when you're feeling something like fear, your thoughts are very specific to that emotion. You're not thinking about, geez, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? No, you're not thinking about that, right? Your brain is going to the worst case scenario, and you're hyper aware of different sounds and things like that and movement. So when you can kind of incorporate those realistic sort of responses that happen to us in real life into your character, it means that your readers feel like they're right there. They feel like they're experiencing the same thing that your character's experiencing. It becomes really powerful. So it's really just about us kind of reminding ourselves, okay, she shivered. She's already shivered. Lots of shivering going on. It's time to move on to something else, Angela.
His jaw clenched. His jaw is still clenching.
Yeah, still clenching. Time to move on. So, you know, and it's a problem we all have. It's, none of us are immune. We all have it.
No, that was my own example. The clenched jaw is, I'm pretty sure that's mine, but I'm going to come back. I'm just,
yours, eh?
Yeah. I'm just drafting through, and I'm like, I'll come back and fix some of these later. But for now,
I would make a joke about trademarking that if it's yours, but unfortunately, we can't be like that. Really happened.
It's not funny.
That is. It's
Too
not funny.
Soon.
It is.
Soon.
Yeah. My goodness.
Anyways, yeah. No, that's just the one that I recognize in myself sometime. I'm like, how else am I going to say this? Well, I'll figure out later. This is my first book. I'm going to be real gentle with myself.
Well, and you know what? That's totally okay too. Like, it's the same thing. Another thing writers do a lot with emotion is they'll name the emotion. She shivered with fear, and they'll actually name it. And that's what we call telling, right? Because you shouldn't need to say with fear. It should be really clear from whatever's going on, whatever you're describing, that she's scared. She's not like cold. But that is okay too as placeholder. Your first draft, just get that story out, use those shivers, have that jaw clench, whatever you want to do. But once you become aware of what your thing is, so yours is clenched jaw, you go through your manuscript and you do a search for it, and you find out, oh, wow, I've got 42 clenched jaws. Maybe you need to do something about that. And then that's when you go to those and you're like, okay, I need to say this a different way. Like, I need to show this differently. How can I do it? So it can be really good to actually know what our things are, whatever those are for us, our crutch gestures, or even just do a search for that particular, for fear or worry or whatever emotional word. If we don't know what we want to say, as a placeholder, you can always put, something about fear in here, and then go back to it when you're revising to really put something that's powerful on the page.
I like that. I think a lot of people try to get things right the first time, and it's like, it's okay to come back.
Yeah, that's madness. Madness. I can't do it. I would be perpetually revising if I did that. Like, I'd be stuck 3 hours on the same line, and I already do that in revision, so I don't need to do it when I'm actually drafting. I like drafting. I don't want to start hating drafting.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I know. I like drafting, and I like revising. I think I might be more of a reviser just because I like having something to make better. Making something from scratch for me is, I don't know, it's harder for me, but I'm just gonna go with it because I didn't play in my imagination like a lot of people do, like growing. Oh, I always just had these stories in my head. I never have stories in my head. So I'm going to be a different kind of writer, I guess.
Well, that's okay. And I think the more you read and the more you write, the more that it's just a muscle, right? And that imagination just sort of comes on. And
I had other people's stories in my head. I've read tens of thousands of books.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask a little bit about, because you are part of Writers Helping Writers, and you have, there's a few other things that I thought I might. Okay. So when you guys put out your emotion thesaurus, what happened then? How did it become so successful?
Well, I think in part it became successful because we originally blogged it. We blogged a good portion of it. So if we rewind the clock a little bit, Angela learned this word called platform. And there was this word called platform, and it's apparently what you needed in order to get published. So Angela's like, okay, I'm going to make one of those. And way back then, what you did when you were trying to make a platform is you started a blog.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started a blog called The Bookshelf Muse. I wrote one post and then I instantly got terrified. And then I emailed Becca and I said, look, I just started a blog and you have to do it with me because I'm too scared to do it by myself. So she did, thank goodness. And we just, this is kind of, we were going through this, figuring out where we were struggling as writers, what we wanted to work on. And we were blogging. We're blogging about writing, which, I don't recommend doing if you're a fiction author. It's what we did. Mm-hmm. And now we write nonfiction. So it's worked out really well. But normally that's not, you wouldn't want to write exclusively about the writing process because you're supposed to be blogging to your actual audience.
Yes.
But anyway, so we started when we realized that we're having this problem with emotion and we started creating these lists, we thought, why don't we share them on the blog? Because if we're having this problem, I bet you other people are too. And so that's what we started doing is every Saturday or Thursday or whatever it was, we would do an emotion. So fear, anxiety, whatever it was. And we would create this list of all these different things that a character could do. And that kind of really took off fast. Like when we started doing that, people were like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Like, I really need this. Can you do nervousness next? They would actually ask us, can you do this emotion? Can you do that emotion? And so we started doing that, just blogging out all these different things. So we kind of had this built-in readership of people who found that really, really helpful. So that definitely helped. And I think too, word just kind of got around that there was now this resource out there that helped with one of the biggest problems that anyone, that most writers have, and that's with emotion and showing it in a fresh way. So yeah, word just kind of got around very quickly. We honestly did not know what to expect. We knew a lot of people were visiting our blogs. We knew that people were pirating our content because we actually were contacted by the Florida Writers Association because they wanted us to come present a workshop on emotion because someone had given them a copy of the Emotion Thesaurus. And it's like, what? So somebody had taken all of our material off our blog and put it together in a PDF. And I don't know if they were selling it or just distributing it, but either way, like that was kind of the wake-up call for Beck and I that if we do not do something with this, someone else they're going to actually try to publish it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that just because it was such a perennial area of struggle, but we also, we had a very good, strong network with other writers. When we built our blog, we were visiting other people, we were building relationships. My idea of marketing is not selling people stuff. I don't like that. I like talking to people. I like building relationships. I like understanding what my audience needs most and then providing it for them. I get a lot of satisfaction out of helping people, as I said, and so does Becca. And so that's what we focus on is how can we add value to people? So because of that, because everything that we do, we try to pack as much value as possible. I think people appreciate that. And because we weren't pushing our stuff on them, we found that people would actually do exactly what you had just said, that somebody said, have you seen this book? No, I haven't. Oh my gosh, you need it. And then that word of mouth, like that's literally what happened with that book is just people found out about it. They found out it existed. Different colleges and universities started using it in their creative writing programs. We had a few people write a thesis paper where they sourced it for different things when they were in their MFA programs. Just lots of different writing groups, writing organizations. They would tell their users or their members, they would say, this book is really helpful on this topic. And so it just kind of went down that road, and more people were using it, and more influencers were saying that they were using it. I still remember when I was on Twitter one day and James Scott Bell sent me a message saying, hey, so I got your Emotion Thesaurus. I really like it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's James Scott Bell. So, it was just really incredible, really, really incredible how fast that book took off. And, it's been wonderful. It's so good to know that we're helping people in an area that they really struggle with. And now those scenes are coming easier. They're finding revision easier. And as a writer, with knowing how much we all juggle and how hard it is, anything that we can do to make things easier, like that's kind of Becca and my mandate. What can we do to make life easier for people? Because there's so many things that we have to juggle as writers.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have a few different things. One thing I definitely want to ask was, how does it feel? How did it feel when you heard about your books being used in universities?
Well, that was kind of insane. I was just like, what? I think what happened there is we were contacted by someone in a university. It wasn't the professor, but it was like one of their aides or whatever. And they were asking if they could have a copy of it because they wanted to include it in their reading materials for the school. And that was the first time that happened. And yeah, it kind of blew us away. And it also made us feel kind of legitimized in a way.
That's the other part that I was hoping that you would
my goodness
speak to.
Because like that was like a really hard thing for us to do, because when we published The Emotion Thesaurus, we published it in 2012. And for those who don't remember 2012, it was a period of time where there was a lot of friction, let's say, between the traditional industry and self-published authors. There was a lot of like, self-published stuff is not good quality. It's people who can't make it in the traditional industry. There was unfortunately a lot of that. And of course, we all know now how untrue all of that is. But back then, that's kind of the environment. So not only were Becca and I deciding to self-publish our book, we were self-publishing a writing guide that goes on the shelf next to, Donald Moss's breakout novel and all the Writer's Digest books and like all these massively popular traditional books. Like we were entering a space saying, yeah, we belong here. And that was really hard because, like I said, Becca and I, we weren't published at the time. We had magazine credits. That's about all. I had an agent and, she was shopping stuff, but I wasn't selling anything yet. And it took a lot for us to put it out there and to put ourselves out there. Suddenly, yeah, you know what? We're saying that we know enough about this topic that we can help you. Like that, I still, cringe a bit thinking about, oh my gosh, Angela, what were you thinking to do that? But we just knew that we had something that was really, really useful. And we were very confident that the right people were going to find it and they were going to be helped by it. So I'm really glad that we went ahead and did it. But yeah, so when the school, asked us about that, definitely we felt legitimized. And I mean, it was the same way when we started getting requests from foreign agents about foreign rights. And that was the same thing. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And it also like made us feel like, this legitimizes us, that other publishers are interested in this. And so that was a really incredible moment for sure.
Yeah. You guys don't know, but she's like so inspiring for me personally right now.
Oh gosh.
Because I'm in the middle of writing a book about how to help people with their marketing. I'm just finishing it. And it's my first book that I'm writing, but that's why I want to talk to you about, well, it's not my first book, but it's the first book on this topic, right? Like on this topic of helping people with marketing, because I'm really good with people. And I wanted to ask you about, because you said that your marketing kind of revolves around relationship building. And so I know that's something that crosses genre. So even though we've been talking about nonfiction, because that's what you're writing right now, I want to, you've been very successful with this and you're crediting it to this relationship and word of mouth. And I'd like to dive into that a little bit, because I think a lot of people, even if you're writing fiction, can get a lot of value from marketing with relationship building. So can you talk a little bit about that?
For sure. Yeah. I think it all starts with one really simple thing, and that is to understand who your audience is. Whether or not it's me for writers or, a romance author, readers of a particular type of romance, you really have to distill who exactly is your ideal readership for your book and where are they? Where are they online? And once you figure that out, then you want to start connecting with them. And you don't want to be like, hey, I have a book. It's not like that at all. It's that you wrote a book on a very specific topic. So clearly you must have passions about that topic. If I wrote a romance about, I'll use your example, she's a knitter. She's big into knitting. Or not knitting, but she's going to make her first quilt. So it's a quilting romance, she loves quilting. Maybe she inherited a bunch of fabric from her aunt and she's ready to dive into this world and she just absolutely loves quilting. Clearly, it could be a romance between, I don't know, like a fabric shop owner and a quilter or something like that. Or two people who are in a quilting group. Who knows? But whatever that looks like, it's not just a romance. It's a romance about quilters. So that opens up a whole group of people who are interested in quilting. So find those people, have conversations with them. If you're writing, you don't just pick something like that out of the air. I'm going to guess that if I'm going to write a novel about quilters who fall in love versus, I don't know, dog lovers or motorcycle enthusiasts or, there's a reason I'm interested in that. And if you think about the research that you do, that can be a really good way for you to sort of help you figure out what makes your novel special, because that's really what we're talking about here. What makes my romance novel stand out from every other romance novel out there is that it's about quilters and it's about that world and it's about fabric and shaping things and making things and why we make things and how we put our love into it. Like all of those things makes my novel special than this romance that takes place in a fantasy world and it's like a sword and sorcery romance. It's completely different, completely different audiences. So how we can do this is to figure out what makes our book special, figure out who would the people most likely to be interested in this type of book, and then connect with them online. There's so many different ways to find these groups now. There's Facebook always has tons of different groups, and Twitter, you can do Twitter searches for different keywords to sort of figure out, like, is there a chat, that sort of ties into this interest? Well, maybe I want to join that chat and start to get to know people and talk to them. There's also reaching out to other authors who write books that are like yours, because that is going to open up different kinds of opportunities where you guys can collectively, if it's someone that writes a book that's a lot like yours,
only they're doing knitting and you're doing quilting.
Yeah. Or even if it's the exact the same thing, but if they've written a high quality book and they have a built-in audience of people that are really, enjoying that book, then that's a really good person for you to connect to and, help them and figure out how you can raise visibility for them. How can you do things to help their book, become more popular without spamming people with promotion? That's not kind of what I'm talking about, but more, is there different ways that you can help that person to reach out to them so that you get on your radar and you start building this relationship through trust by saying, hey, I'm not approaching you to get something from you, but I do think that we both have something in common and we can help each other. Writing, the marketing part of being a writer is really intimidating for a lot of people because we're a creative mindset and you really have to have a bit of a business mindset for this whole other area. So like I said, everything that I do, I think about the relationship first. And for me, a big part of that is thinking about how I can help that person. What is it that they need? What do they like? What can I offer to the conversation? Not how can I slide in my book cover and how can I, direct traffic to this? It's not that. It's more, we have a common interest, or we have a common struggle, or we have something we both enjoy. Let's have a conversation about it and see where it goes. So I think that is something that translates to any genre. It doesn't matter what genre you write. And like I said, there's kind of two levels to it. There's the direct audience. Once you've defined who the people are most likely to be interested in your type of book, there's those group of people that any marketing efforts that you do, you want to make sure that those are the people you're kind of speaking to. And then there's the people, your peers, people that, are in the industry, other writers or even other businesses that have, like a quilting shop would be a good example in this case. They don't write books, but they know a lot of people that love quilting. They might be someone to talk to and, do your book launch in a quilting shop. That's kind of interesting and neat. Like you're doing it in the quilting shop, but I mean, think about all the people coming through that door and how it's something completely unusual. They wouldn't expect this celebratory event happening and you're giving them cupcakes and they sit down and they're enjoying themselves and you're talking about something that you love doing, and then you're talking about your novel and how this passion led you to write this novel, like that speaks to people. That's how you build emotional connections with people. That resonates with them. So, maybe you want to do something like that. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can think creatively, but it really starts with understanding who your audience is, and then how can you provide value? Like what it is they want or need, and how can you give it to them?
Yeah.
And that's how I see marketing is, how can I help you?
That really is. And I talk about this in my book, you guys, but it really is like the example I give in my book is, I live in a very small town. Like I live in a very, very small town in a rural area of Idaho. And on a Sunday night, this may or may not have happened personally. I had a craving for donuts, like really bad, really, really bad, wanted donuts, but I live far away and there are no donut places, even in big towns. There's hardly any donut places open on a Sunday night, right? If somebody had come by and said, "Hey, I have some donuts," just like all casual, like I would have been I would have like been grabbing my wallet so fast. Like they wouldn't even had to try to sell it to me. They wouldn't have even had to market it to me because I'd have been like, I have a need. I have a need.
Exactly.
Please fill it. And so, and with your nonfiction, the need is very, it's easier to see the nonfiction needs, like, cause you're like, oh, they have a need. They don't know how to say, to say, they rolled their eyes in a different way, but we all want to, but we're stuck. With the fiction, it's a little bit different because the need isn't necessarily, it's not as clearly defined. It might be something like entertainment or escape but it's still there and it's still a need. Like, and so.
Well, there will, in any book, there's going to be themes that you touch on that set it apart, make it interesting. And so, it's about, like I said, it's about really analyzing your book and challenging yourself to find what makes this special. Like what drove me to write this particular book? And, like figuring out how then you can take that passion that you felt, or, if you, let's say your book was about rescue animals instead, and you've got a real passion for that. You've got a, you love organizations that safeguard animals because they really get the short end of the stick in so many ways. We want to buy our kid a rabbit for Christmas, and then the rabbit's a lot of work, and so it ends up in a cage its whole life, and and it's just, that's not fair to the animal. And so if that's kind of how you feel, and that was what drove you to write a story that kind of takes place a little bit in this area, in this space, then follow that a bit. People connect to passion, whatever your passion is. So if you're able to communicate it, if you're able to tell a story about why you created something, people really connect to that. So think about what your story is. Why, like with your marketing book, what's your story? Why do you feel compelled to write this book? Are you just looking for dollar bills? Or is there a deeper thing that's like pushing you to make this, put all that time and effort into this book because you really feel passionately about helping people in an area that often people are in the dark about? They don't know what it looks like, what good marketing looks like. And so they end up doing all these things that aren't going to help. And then they're just going to get jaded because they're like, marketing doesn't work because they've tried things that, they don't work because it's bad marketing. Yeah. So, we all have reasons for why we create. So kind of figure out what that story is and share that. People, we all love to create. We're passionate about different things. And when you can communicate that passion, it's something special and it's something that everyone will recognize.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much because I have some people who've been like, I'm having really hard. They're like, I'm trying to be out there connecting with people and but how do you have that convert? And there's, and yes, you can deliberately connect with people, but I think the key is that vulnerability of like and the vulnerability comes from what you said, which is the passion of being willing to share your passion, or or if it's not passion, it's that vulnerability of, this is my heart, baby. Here, you guys can't see it, but I'm like lifting my heart out of my chest and with my hands. But like, because there is I really love that. And I think you have to be very brave, but you also get the most and courageous to do that sometimes, but you also get the best results, and people's hearts respond to your heart. Like, that's not everybody's, but a lot. Most people's will respond to your heart. So
I think that if it fits your book and it fits your genre to do something like that, then do that. Be honest and open, and don't be shy about saying why you wrote something. I mean, we should all feel like it's so much work to write a book. So much work, and so much more work than the average reader even has a clue about, and they never will. And I think if they did, they'd be like, why do you do this? It's like, good question. Let me get back to you. But, they can see that, they can get an appreciation. We've all done things that we've worked hard for. And who can't connect to that,
Yeah. Like you guys. So the reason why I'm so passionate about helping people with their marketing is because I'm just going to take your advice right now.
Do it.
Because when I was growing up, I was the analytical sister and my sister was creative. And so I never thought of myself as being creative. And it took me a while. I sampled, I tried stuff. I tried quilting and I was like, oh, I'm creative. I just like creative within a structure. I like a structure to be creative within. I'm not just, but that doesn't mean I'm not creative. And it hurts my heart when people don't see possibilities for themselves because somebody else told them they can't. Like we all have these possibilities of these and all this creativity and goodness that we want to put out into the world. And then somebody somewhere said you can't for whatever reason, or they didn't say you can't. They just said something in a certain way and you decided, oh, that means I can't.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I was the analytical one and I decided that meant I couldn't be the creative one. And I just want so much to help people to be able to say, hey, yeah, I can be the creative one and I can put it out there. Cause that's what the marketing part is the putting it out there.
Yeah.
and having people get the good response. That's a lot of power comes from, excuse me. A lot of power comes from getting the response. The creative part is amazing and doing the best. I'm part of the reason why you're so successful. And I made a note is because not only are you finding what people need, but you're doing it really well. Like that's the second part. You're giving them something that you've put that's excellent and providing it to them. And then, but the putting it out there is the next step, I think, is like create it to the best of your ability and then put it out there. And that's can be really, really hard, but it's, but it's also the impact that you get to have on people's lives when you do put it out there is more than you can imagine, even if no matter what you're writing. So anyways.
Well, and it's satisfying in the sense that just like I get to help writers do what they love and make more of what they love and get better at what they love, you're in a situation where writers have that product, they've got that book that they've slaved over and they love it and they want to share it, but they're terrified, and they're terrified that they're going to mess it up. They're going to take their opportunity and they're just going to, because they don't know what to do, or they've listened to the wrong person, or they put all their money into ads and it doesn't work, like whatever that is for them, they're terrified they're going to make a mistake. And people need to know that there's help out there. And so being the person who says, look, I know you're outside your comfort zone right now. All good. I get it. And this is how I can help. And this is how I can support you. but not just like, here's what you need to do, just do it and you'll be fine, but actually teaching them so that they're growing and they're learning and they're becoming more comfortable with the business side of things, and the marketing side and putting themselves out there. Like for me, that was the hardest thing ever. I am not a look at me kind of person. Like, look at me, look at my book. I struggle with promotion. I like marketing and I focus on marketing because for me, it's all about value. It's like I said, figuring out what my audience needs and then providing it. That's awesome. I am all over that. That's why I like content marketing so much. But the actual promotion end of it, where it is more look at me, like that, I struggle with. I don't, it's just so far out my comfort zone. So having people say, Angela, it's okay. Like, you're not going to be a total troll if you share your book cover and if you say like these things, it's okay. Just don't go too far the other way. Just knowing that there's someone out there that's kind of guiding you and helping you, like that empowers us all, because then we grow, we get better at what we're doing. We get more confident at the things that we really were questioning ourselves. And why am I even doing this? I'm going to be terrible. It's going to be a train wreck. Like we're becoming more empowered, and we're gaining the access to the tools that we need to improve ourselves and to become business people as well as writers. And that's what we need. You need to be both. And it is a scary prospect, but it is something that we need to get comfortable with in order for us all to succeed.
Oh my gosh.
So good on you for doing it. And thank you for sharing that. Like I think one thing that I love about the industry that we're in is I've never seen an industry where people are so supportive of other people. And you certainly do get, some people that are not at all, mm-hmm. and they can say and do things that can be incredibly hurtful. And they're like, I don't know why you are even trying. Like, this is so terrible. You should just burn this manuscript. Like, you get people like that, unfortunately. But there's a tsunami of incredible people out there, that far outweigh the few trolls that you're gonna come up against in your life. And it's the amount of knowledge and experience that people are willing to share in our industry to help lift everyone up. It's a beautiful thing. It's one of the reasons why I love this industry. I love writers, and it's such a privilege to help other writers, because we're all like a piece of a chain. None of us are little islands trying to figure. We're all helping each other. And then, once we grow stronger, we pay it forward to someone else. And, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah. I agree with you like 150%, because I've worked in a lot of different places. There is nothing like this that I've seen, or maybe there is, but it's very special. It's special in the way that and it's practical and special. Like everybody's generous with each other because it behooves everybody. Nobody can write a book as fast as it takes somebody to read it.
Yeah.
Like it's beautiful to be generous with each other and recommend other people's books and all these things. And you actually, when you lift yourself up and you lift other people up, everybody rises together in this industry, is because there's no way we can write as faster as our readers can read. It's just not possible. Yeah.
And as a writer, I mean, if my audience, they want more and I don't have more.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say, well, okay, I don't have more right now. I'm working on it. But in the meantime, these are people that you need to turn to. Like, these books are incredible. You really are going to learn a lot. You're absolutely right. Like, we don't want our audience to forget about us. And that's the reality, is some people are voracious readers. We don't want them to forget about us while we're writing the next book. So if we can work with other people, and continually raise profiles of other people, like, we do all rise together. And it helps keep us relevant to our audience, because they're like, okay, yeah, Angela, she's writing a book right now. I get it. Not going to see anything from her in 8 months. But in the meantime, here's all the things that she's doing for me. They're going to be waiting for that next book. They're not going to forget about me and move on to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So, and that's just, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, you're right, Angela.
No, you're right. You're a writer.
Definitely.
You're a writer.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Okay. I had one question I wanted to touch on, and this is a little bit from before, but you said, I'm really curious about, you said you create book launch events, but you like to get creative.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit? I don't know exactly what that means, but I really want to.
Well, my idea with marketing, one thing I love with marketing that kind of runs against my whole, I don't like putting myself out there, is that I know it's book launch, it's really, that's what you're doing. You're putting yourself out there. But so it's irony here that I'm talking about, but it is an opportunity to put your energy behind a thing instead of yourself, which I love. Because like I said, I'm not a big woo, look at me. But if I can put all of that energy and excitement and direct it towards a thing, that is much more my comfort zone. And so that's where I don't get, hung up on anything. And so when it comes to one of our book launches, I think about my audience. I think about what is it that they like, what would they find entertaining? What would be fun to participate in? What kind of emotional response am I looking for? And what's easy? Because that's the thing, is when you want people to do some kind of event and you want to think outside the box, which I always try to do. I try not to do the same old stuff that people see over and over and over. I like to bring people something new, because when you bring something new, they pay attention. The reality is there are a billion books being, pushed on people all the time and in the same way. And so if you can think of something that's exciting and different and, special, in that it ties into something special about your book, that makes it magical. So in our case, I like to think about the book's theme. So with the Emotion Thesaurus, Becca and I decided to try to reach out to the people we knew. We wouldn't have called it a street team then, because that language wasn't really there, but that's what I would call them now. And we just asked everybody we knew. We're like, hey, we're going to be launching a book. I have a surprise idea that I want to do. And if you're interested, sign up here and I'll email you with the idea. And then you can tell me if you want to go through with it. And you would not be surprised. You would be surprised how much people like the aspect of a surprise. and they didn't know what they were signing up for. They're like, I have no idea what you want to do, Angela, but I want to hear more. And so we had a lot of people sign up saying, yeah, I want to find out more. And what we decided to do in that case is to tie into a very specific emotion because we were launching the Emotion Thesaurus of gratitude. And so what we did, gratitude and kindness kind of all go together. So we decided to create an event called Random Act of Kindness. And what we did is we asked all these people who signed up, we said, look, we would like to surprise everyone in the community all on the same day by taking over blogs and surprising people that we know with a random act of kindness, people who are in our industry. So it might be that critique partner of yours that's, they've tirelessly, draft after draft, they've helped you, through so many different books, so you've learned so much from them. Or it might be someone who you always visit their blog and you get so much great information from them and you want to do something to say thank you. It could be any kind of person that in the industry. It could even be an editor that's really helped you out, or, your agent, whoever fits this idea of someone that's done a lot for you and you want to say thank you. That's what we would like to do. And so we didn't want it to cost a ton of money or anything like that. We didn't want to put people in the poorhouse. Writers, we're already struggling as it is. So there's no need to, make it about money or anything like that. So we gave a lot of different options of things that you could do, just ideas. So you could give someone a shout out on your blog and just say something special about them, why you want to do a random act of kindness for them and the things that they've done. So if they were your critique partner, you would say, she's been my critique partner for 3 years. I've learned so much from her. And then, as something special, I want to do a random act of kindness. So I'm going to, and then fill in the blank. So it might be, critique her next novel, or it might be, I'm sending her an e-card, or it might even be a gift. Some people did give out gifts. Some people gave out books, different things like that. We just asked everyone the same thing. And we said, please don't give away anything of ours. Don't give away the Emotion Thesaurus, because we don't want this to be about our book, which again, sort of was a bit of a risk for us. We made a book launch where we announced it was because we were launching a book, and that's the only time we mentioned it. The rest of it was a week-long event. Excuse me. And we didn't mention our book at all after that. And we just asked people not to gift it because we did not want it to be about the book. And what was so incredible about this thing is we started with, I think maybe 60 people decided to do this. And some of them, they would post something on their blog. Like I basically wrote a post that everyone could use and then alter to fit their circumstances. Some people would do shout outs on their Facebook wall or Twitter, like whatever social media they wanted to do, or they would just email the person privately and say, I'm part of this and this is what I'm doing and why. And thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. But what happened over this week time is more and more people joined in. So we started with our 60 people and everyone's like, oh my God, I love this. I'm going to surprise somebody with a random act of kindness. And so it just built and built and built. And more people were doing this. People who had nothing to do with our launch whatsoever. They just really loved the idea. It was something that everybody could kind of get behind. And then the other thing that we did with this launch is we did a big giveaway. And this is something, again, where I'm a nobody. Like back then, nobody knew me. And I just kind of reached for the stars and I asked a lot of people for stuff because I really passionately believed in the writing community and celebrating the writing community. That was really important to us in this launch because we were launching this book at a time where there was division between self-published and traditionally published. So we saw this event as a way to bring everyone together and to celebrate what's great about the writing community. So what I did is I took that messaging and I went to different people, like I went to Writer's Digest. And I asked them, would you ever be willing to donate one of your classes or donate a subscription or something like that? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, can you blog about it? So I did. I went to Scrivener Software and I told them the same thing. I'm doing this thing and this is why. And it's, we really want to celebrate what's special about the community. Would you ever be interested in donating a subscription? Well, they donated like 14 of them, I think, like 14 different passes for Scrivener Software. So I went around to different people like that and just they resonated with the message that why I was doing it. It wasn't a book launch thing. It was a message that we should celebrate what's beautiful about our industry and everybody could get behind that. I even went to Tracy Hickman, who I don't know if you would know him or not, but he's a huge fantasy author, best-selling fantasy author.
Does he write with somebody else?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I do know who it is.
Huge series. And so anyway, Terry Hickman has this thing called the Scribes Forge, and he has classes there. And I'm like, okay, Tracy, you don't know me from a rock, but I grew up on your books. I love your books. Your books were, one of the reasons why I got into writing. And I'm doing this thing. And would you ever be willing to donate a class or something like that to this? Well, he didn't just donate a class. He donated a year's subscription to the Scribes Forge, which basically, I don't know, like all the different, the program that this person was in when they won, it was like a $900 value or something like that. It was incredible. It was an incredible prize to donate. It was insane. But it was just kind of like this attitude that I had, like, look, you don't know me. I'm a nobody. But if I don't ask, like, I have to ask. I have to try. And so that was kind of my attitude with this whole thing is just, you know what? Be honest, be authentic, be myself, explain why I'm passionate about this thing. And people will respond to that. And they absolutely did. So not only the people who sponsored it with all these great prizes that we were able to give away prizes every single day of the week, but also the people who joined in, just because the idea resonated with them. So that's an example of a creative thing that we did for one of our launches. Another launch that we did, it was our setting books. So we launched 2 books at the same time. And the setting books are basically 250 different settings all over the world that Beck and I have, researched, visited, and written all the things a character might see, smell, taste, touch. What's missing there? See here, taste, touch, smell. Yeah, there we go. And then the different kind of conflict scenarios that could happen in that particular location, people who are associated with that, that kind of stuff. So that basically, you know, if you're writing a story and you know your story is going to take place in, I don't know, like a construction site, you're like, what is it? What would I see? What would my character see? What would be going on? What kind of sounds would there be? Well, you would be able to look it up and find out all that information and maybe get some ideas about things that could go wrong. You know, different, you know, there's an accident on site or whatever, you know, you got a group of kids who are partying and they wreck a bunch of stuff, whatever. So it's a brainstorming tool for that particular location. So what we did in that case for our launch is we did something, it was called the My Favorite Thesaurus. And because at that point in time, we had 5 different thesauruses out, we invited people to share images of their favorite thesauruses and just them and their thesaurus, an image, and it didn't have to be ours. It could be any thesaurus because there's a lot of thesauruses out there, especially at this point in time, because I think the emotion thesaurus, when it kind of got really popular, other people started using that word in their title because we noticed that there were not very many, you know, beyond the traditional, you know, Miriams and all that kind of stuff. But now there's a lot of different creative thesauruses, which is great. So anyway, we invited everyone to just share an image, use a hashtag, and I would, depending on how many people use this hashtag, you know, we would give away more and more prizes. We had a prize vault. And basically, the more times the hashtag was used, the more prizes would be unlocked from the prize vault. And then the more we would do drawings and stuff like that. So it was great because it flooded social media with images of our hashtag. And, you know, people could follow that and get to our site. A lot of people did choose pictures of our books. And we got some great pictures. Like somebody in New Zealand, they took the emotion thesaurus to, I can't remember what it's called, but it was the Mount Doom. So they actually have a picture of like, there's Mount Doom in the background. It's like the most coolest thing ever. I think I died so happy that day. But people got really creative about it. And, you know, they did all these creative, beautiful pictures and everybody's into Instagram and stuff like that. So there was some really artistic stuff and it was great. It got a lot of visibility for these books. You know, there was a fun draw. It was very easy to do. Take a picture, put it online, use a hashtag. Like, so, you know, we made it fun. And we had some really great prizes. So people kind of had to work together in order to unlock this vault that we had going on. That was really popular. So yeah, just trying to think outside the box and do things a little bit differently. Every single launch that we do, we build a street team for it now. I would call it a street team. And we ask people if we can take over their blog. And what I do in that case is I use different people's blogs on the launch week or launch day or however many days the launch will be as windows. So, you know, I have one blog, and so I can only reach the people who visit my blog. But if I've got 50 people in my street team who all say, yeah, Angela, you can use my blog on this day, those are 50 new windows to new people, my audience, who will find out about what's going on, the event that's happening at my blog. So it's all these different ways for people to get to the event and participate. And always make sure that when I do these things, I make it very easy for the people participating. So in the case of bloggers, I create the post for them. I give it to them, you know, in plain text, also HTML, all the pictures already embedded. So all they have to do is put it on their site. Or if they want to do their own, they're welcome to do that. But if they're busy, they just need to like upload it. And I always make sure too that I've got a few different posts. So it's not the same post on every single, you know, person's, right? Because that's the other thing when you see the same post over and over and over. So I try to do a few different versions of it so that, you know, maybe you saw one at one site and then you see a slightly different one at a different one. So if you happen to visit more than one blog.
And are you hosting all these? I'm sorry, quick. I know like we're over the time. So I just quickly, are these happening like on Facebook or on your blog? How do people find out when they've released more prizes from the vault? Like, where is that? That's always on the blog.
Okay. And yeah. And honestly, if you ever wanted to see any of our past events,
yes.
If you go to Writers Helping Writers, I believe in the sidebar, it's actually called Past Events.
Okay.
And not everything is in there because I've cleaned the blog up over the years and, you know, it's kind of cleaned it up. but there should be a tag in the sidebar that says past events, and it'll show you a lot of the different events that we've run for book launches.
Awesome.
There's also a handout on the Tools for Writers page at Writers Helping Writers that's all about creative book launches. So it gives you ideas for if you want to use Instagram, if you want to use YouTube, if you want to use your blog, like different things that you can do that are thinking outside the box, for different platforms.
Oh my gosh.
Because like I said, we don't want to be doing the same thing that everybody else does. We want to, and we also want to make sure that we're not just inviting other writers, like our network, because those people, don't get me wrong, like they're great people to connect with. But if we're writing fiction, our focus should be on fiction readers, we're not like marketing to other writers is something that you got to be really careful about, because these are people who have supported you and they've helped you in a lot of different ways. And if they feel that you're using them as a dollar sign, like that's a big turn off. So you got to be careful about that when you're writing fiction.
Yeah.
You really, and too, why settle for a slice of the pie when you can have the entire pie?
Well, only the tiniest percentage of people who read also write.
Exactly. So why would you just market to other writers? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh man, I wish I'd asked that question so much earlier, but everybody listen to the end of the episode. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I can send you the link for the Tools for Writers page that has like all the marketing. There's a ton of marketing stuff on there.
What I'll do is, since I'm going to look at it for myself, I will also just take it and I try to put all the links to the resources that happen in the show notes. So, so I'm going to put on like Michael Hauge 6 something plot structure. So I'll go find that and put it up in the show notes so that everything will be.
I love it.
So I try to be like, I've tried to have good quality. So, okay. So I'm going to skip one question, which is, unless you want to briefly answer, what advice would you give to other authors? Some of it you've covered a little bit, I think, but if you have some best advice, and then,
okay,
go ahead.
Okay. So really fast, I would say, first of all, to take your time and learn your craft. Probably the biggest mistake I see people make over and over and over is they're in a rush to publish and they're not ready. And I know that's hard to hear, but taking the time to really understand strong writing craft, really editing a book well, like that is going to help you so much in the end. If you're going traditional and you're trying to find a publisher, like it's harder and harder to do all the time. If you're going self-published route, it's easy to publish, but it's hard to get eyes on your book, and good quality writing is what's going to sell. So really take the time. It's not a race. I would also say to treat your writing like a business, because it really is. And that's just more about getting comfortable with that other aspect of your life. We all would love to have a job where all we do is create, and then we sort of hand it all off to somebody else to market and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't exist. That's not part of our world anymore as writers, unless you're some amazingly huge author. We have to treat it like a business, and we have to kind of get comfortable with that. And there's lots of different, like this podcast, and the book you're writing, and different websites and stuff like that can help with that. So just start to get comfortable with that. So that would be my 2 biggest pieces of advice, I would say.
Okay. And can you tell us about your latest book and where the listeners can find you?
Okay, so the last book that we wrote is The Emotional Wound Thesaurus, A Writer's Guide to Psychological Trauma. And what it looks at is our characters' backstory wounds. So the things that happened to them in the past are very formative. Even with us, if you think about our own personal wounds, things that happened to us in our past, they change who we are. They change how we behave. They change the types of goals that we go after. You talk about how you had that realization that you felt that you couldn't be creative. Like, think of how that steered your life until now. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing with our characters. Something has happened to them in their past that has created fears in their mind, has made them feel like there's certain things that they're not capable of. It holds them back in life. And in most novels, we're following a change arc where our character is going to evolve and grow and change over the course of the story. And one of the ways that they do that is by facing that past wound and learning to deal with it in a healthy way and overcome it and move past it so that they realize that they're stronger than they thought they were, not be held back by their own fears, and they're in a position of strength where they can then go after their goal, whatever that is, and achieve it. So it's a very important piece. It's like the centerpiece of character arc. So we've kind of looked at 120, 130 different iconic possible wounds that you might want to pick for your characters. You know, things that are like failures and mistakes, or childhood wounds, you know, like growing up with alcoholic parents, or growing up with child neglect. Like there's lots of different things that happen that totally change a person who they are. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of it's a brainstorming guide for people trying to figure out what their character's backstory is and how they're going to face that in the scope of the story.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing. Not easy reading. No. It's not easy reading. and it's real wounds. So you have to be you got to practice self-care when you read this book, because you may find something that is come from your own past. And, you know, that can be hard, but we also write what we know. Like that's what we tend to do. You know, we write what we know. And sometimes we write from a place of pain, and it can be very healing for us to do that. So just, you know, like be careful when you read this book and understand what you're getting into, practice self-care, but it can be very, very helpful to create those really deep characters who feel realistic to readers.
Oh my gosh. I have so many more questions that I'm not going to ask you right now because it's been so long, because I'm like, I want to know how you are researching these books, but I'm not asking that now. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to, after the show, never mind. Okay. And where can people find you? Is Writers Helping Writers the best?
Yes, Writers Helping Writers. It's that we switched a few years ago. We switched from the Bookshelf Muse to Writers Helping Writers to rebrand ourselves, because the Bookshelf Muse doesn't really tell you what we are, but Writers Helping Writers is exactly who we are and what we do. So it's our site, it's our blog, tons and tons and tons of articles and resources to help writers. So anyone who's struggling, they should definitely go there. And then, of course, there's One Stop for Writers, which is it's a subscription site. So it's not a free site like our other one, but it also has a lot of different tools and resources that are going to help you become a stronger writer and write more effective novels. So those would be the two places that you could find me. But I'm also all over online. I'm happy to connect on Facebook or Twitter or wherever.
Okay, awesome. And that's writershelpingwriters.com. .net. Good. See?
Somebody else took .com. I don't know who they are, but
okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Writershelpingwriters.net and One Stop
for Writers.com.
Okay. Just want to be absolutely clear, because yes, we don't want people to accidentally go to the wrong one and be like, "Where's Angela?" And you're like, "We forgot to say .net." Okay. But in the show notes, it will say .net. So you guys, if you want to go to the show notes, it'll be authorlikeaboss.com/episode, and then whatever episode this ends up being. So, okay.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Angela. This has been amazing, and I feel like I could talk to you for forever. I hope everybody else got value as well.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. Like I said, I'm always happy to talk about writing craft and, you know, just writers in general, because we're all in this together. So any way we can help each, why wouldn't we?
Okay. Well, so I wasn't going to do this on the air, but now I'm going to ask if you'll come back, since you just said that. It doesn't have to be right away, but sometime, like maybe in 6 months or in the next year sometime.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'd be happy.
I'm like, more questions. Okay. You're an inspiration for me. I'm getting emotional. Okay. Thank you so much. And everybody, thank you here for listening. We're here offering you hugs and happy authoring at Author Like a Boss. Hey, boss, you made it to the end of the episode. You're the best. Because of that, I'm going to give you a special invitation to find out more about the Author Boss Academy, where I and a bunch of really awesome authors hang out, have fun, and get stuff done. If you end up joining, tell me the secret word and you'll get a special bonus. Find out more about the Academy at authorlikeaboss.com/academy. The secret word is nipples. Hugs and happy authoring. I hope to see you soon.
If you love the Author Like a Boss podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes. Until next time.